he did have to turn this like yacht around instead of like if it was just him and he was like, I'm going to work on my own statistics and analytics, then it's turn in a canoe. Like you could, of course, do it, but you have to turn a whole industry's perspective. But that is ultimately what a leader does, right? A leader looks at a scenario, says, we're talking about the same BS around this table that does not work. We're looking to do something that we do not have the money to do. So it's up to me as a leader to find a different solution. So if he didn't do that, then the choices that were on the table were already failing choices.
Yeah.
So of all the times to make a decision, probably a good year to do it.
Howdy, I'm Cade,
And I'm Kit,
and we're real people.
doing real reviews. We are on season 3, Stories That Stick. We have moved into true stories. That will be what we are covering for the next 2 films. And yeah.
Yeah, in picking these movies,
Mhm.
we both were going to do a sports team.
Yeah.
However, after you choosing your movie,
Mm-hmm.
I swapped my choice.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
But
Originally we both thought of like we just put down our first instinct and you changed it. Yeah.
yeah, I had a
Mhm.
sports team as well. What movie did you pick?
I picked Moneyball. Which yes, it is centered around a coach, his decision making, bringing in analytics and changing the perspective of how people approach choosing their players for a game. This is the story of Billy Beane and the Oakland A's. True story, real people. And I love this movie for so many reasons. But yeah, that was my choice.
Name one. What was one reason why you chose this one?
What? Well, I love like metrics, analytics, statistics, logic. Those.
'Cause that's what I was going to say is why you chose this.
That is. Yes. I think that there's obviously I think there's something to people skills and intuition and
Yes.
heartbeat and all of those things. But I'm definitely the type of person that when I'm making a decision, I take my emotion and I go and put that over there and I am very logical and I'm like, what are the numbers? And so what I loved about this movie is the Oakland A's are failing as a baseball team. And which, quick shout out to Toronto who are in the playoffs right now. I'm not sure when we are going to send this out, but hopefully you win or have won, depending on when this came out, because that would be very cool. Just a little baseball. That's what's happening right now, which is cool. So what the Oakland A's, the way that they choose their players is like a beauty pageant. Like they're like, he's got a good back. Well, that guy, he's okay, but he's got an ugly girlfriend. So I don't know if he's confident. I this, and that. And everything is kind of wrapped around like their current circumstances. And I would never choose a staff member, an employee, like anything based on like this wild kind of way that they did it. And scouts were very adamant that they knew over years and years and years of creating baseball teams, they knew how to like look at somebody, look at their kind of life circumstance and choose like a player and sit across the table from parents and say, here's why that we believe in your son to come to this and we're going to offer him this much money and he's going to not choose college and choose us and we're going to get him there. And then lots of times they were wrong. And their instincts and their intuition and things that they base things off of were not logical. Wasn't
Yeah.
statistics. It was like, he's good at these 2 aspects. There's 5 aspects that we look for in a player in baseball. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why we're choosing him. But they maybe didn't take into account things like runs, base, getting on base, how they handle pressure, what they do when they're in different circumstances, how they handle travel, and some of these things that would show up only in statistics.
Yeah.
And so Billy's sitting around this table and he was a player and he did okay. And now he was, heading up this team and putting these players together.
Well, I think that's part of it. He had a full ride to Harvard
Oh.
or like a university of some sort.
Mhm.
like an Ivy League kind of
Deal.
deal, or he could choose to play baseball, which he
Mhm.
loved in the major leagues.
Yeah.
And it turns out that his career didn't take off as far as it was. And he kind of like
Mhm.
regretted that, I think, throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and he made the best choices for what was available, but he didn't have
Yeah.
anybody really doing anything except for hyping him up.
Right.
And so what do you do then? And so when he was sitting around this table and people were hyping up players that he's like, "Ugh," and they just lost 3 of their best players because
Right. Yeah. So that's like
mm
the beginning of the movie. Like
mhm,
three of their best players are going to other teams, and he's going to need to basically rebuild his whole team.
and he doesn't have the budget for it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. So he goes to see, I feel like it was Chicago, but I can't remember. He goes to see one of the bigger teams and he's like, I want these players. And every time that they go to make a decision, he notices that there'll be a group of people, they're talking about trading people, and he keeps looking at this kind of in like a buttoned up t-shirt, tie, like young college kid
Yeah.
that's like
Peter
sitting.
Brand.
Yeah, yeah. And Peter is like in his first job out of, taking economics, and
Yeah.
he has a little cubicle and he's like, why are all of these
Mhm.
guys looking at him when they're making a call? And he's kind of frustrated because they didn't trade the people that he wanted and he's leaving. And he walks over to this guy's cubicle and he's like, why is he listening to you? What is happening? And and he's like, I don't know. I don't think they do listen to me. Like, that's this is my first job. And he's so mad because he's like, how did this person, end up being an authority in a room like this? And he unpacks with him that he looks at how often a player gets on base, and
Mhm.
how often you get on base equals how many runs you have, which in turn equals
Wins.
wins and how often you win.
Yeah.
And he is very sure on it based on statistics and analytics, and he can prove it. And so it doesn't matter how pretty they look on like
Right.
when they're throwing a baseball or they're doing the press. It didn't really matter. Which this was a decision making thing. This like me bringing this up is like literal scouts would be like, I like how he looks when he throws the ball, and they would make a choice. Or I like how often he
I
does
mean,
these
it
things.
is interesting because I mean, like, obviously, it was new during the time, obviously, this story from the way they did pick players, but obviously,
Hmm.
to sell seats,
Yeah,
part of their perspective was pretty people,
attractive players.
attractive players bring more people in,
Hmm.
and thus makes the team more money.
Yeah,
Which is also the same thing. The more wins you have, the more fans you have associated to that as well. It's
hmm,
just a different kind of thing
yeah,
that's more arbitrary that makes no sense.
it's true. And
Yeah.
and it's to honor your city and all those things. But yeah.
But yeah, so he has to, obviously all of the scouts are like, "What are you doing?
Hmm.
Like, why are you we have all of this knowledge," and he's like, "Just trust the process." And even like the head coach
Hmm.
is fighting him on things, so
Hmm.
he gets rid of those players as well.
Yeah, and he takes Peter and he buys him from this other team. He's like, "You work for me now. Something's there." And which a good scout would notice. They would notice who people listen to and who has influence in a room. And so I thought that's really clever. It's really showing how his emotional intelligence is in a room, and also that there is something to the knowledge base that maybe he doesn't even fully understand yet, but he's going to learn it. And he sat with Peter and looked at tapes, and Peter would bring up people who threw funny, people who run funny, people who are this, people who are that, because they get on base, to
Yeah.
these certain places. Hmm.
Well, I think before that too, it was a really cool scene where he's sitting in that room with all of those old guys talking about how they're going to replace this
Hmm.
star player on the team.
Hmm.
How are they gonna get another one of him?
Hmm.
And he's just like, "We lost. We don't need another one of him.
Hmm.
We can't afford another one of him.
Hmm.
What are we gonna do?"
Yeah.
And so he like with Peter, they actually buy 3 players to replace the one,
Yeah.
and it's like an uproar across everybody. They're like,
What?
"Idiots."
Yeah. What are you doing? That guy is in outer space. He's never played in that outfield before. He's never done this before. they're lost, and he's like, "You're a coach, coach him. That's what you're gonna do." Because
Yeah.
he gets on base, and that becomes this like tagline, and people are fighting him the whole way. And it's tough because the coach is fighting him. I sounded so Maritimes there. Coach, coach, not couch. The coach is fighting him, then he's trying to do things based on the analytics, but because this coach is doing things based off his instincts or that he likes this player, he thinks he looks better, and it's what he knows, they are failing in the beginning
Yeah.
a lot. And he is facing that heat, and they are just like, what can this coach do? Like with players like this, like, oh, Billy didn't set him up for success. Like, why did Billy do that to this coach? Like,
Yeah.
ugh. And Billy sets it up by firing people, by making moves that are controversial so that the coach has to
Mhm.
play the players in the analytics that was suggested and they start to win.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this coach knows what he's doing. He's just the greatest thing ever. And it was just very funny because they just were very quick to blame Billy and be like, this, what can this poor coach do?
Yeah.
And yeah, and they slowly start climbing back by doing the analytics and getting on base. What's fascinating about the whole film is that, of course, you're happy and excited for the players as they're like moving forward, and they are facing some of the things like they're, facing judgment on throwing funny. They're facing judgment on doing these things, but because ultimately they are putting the points on the scoreboard, which is what brings in sponsors, brings in
Yeah.
players, brings in fans, it's still correct. And so even though their thought process was maybe it's not as sexy, or they're using players that are older, or these different things, it didn't really matter because as long as the numbers on the board are what it is, it's exactly how I make decisions. I love every time it happens. I'm like, they were right. See that? They were right. Look, Peter Brandt, 23. He knew what was going on. I love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they kept climbing up and like it was unheard of. They were tying like for the records and so they had basically a 20 win
Mhm.
winning streak.
Yeah, which was a record.
Yeah. This
Yep.
was the record and during that time I think who did he get the offer from at the end of the movie?
Sox, I think.
Yeah,
Red Sox. Yeah.
the Red Sox for like
12.5.
yeah,
Mhm.
$12.5 million to come and be their head coach
Yeah.
because they believed in his model
Yeah.
of what he's doing.
Yeah, those I believe it was the Sox, and they were like, "I
Yeah.
can't imagine a coach would ever go back to the kind of beauty pageant scouting after seeing what you did this year. Everyone's gonna do the Billy Beane model." But she was like, "Well, I learned it from Peter," and they were like, "We thought you were crazy, like, listening to his economics, Yale student,
Yeah.
like, this is and you proved everybody wrong, and, we want you to come and coach here." And there was a part of him that was so tied to that he wanted to bring the Oakland A's to win in
Mhm.
the I wanna say playoffs, and I don't think that's the right word, to win in the final what is it? Is it a cup?
World Series.
World Series? Is it a series? Do they get a cup? They don't get a cup. What do they get when you win baseball? Round of applause. So yeah, he wanted them to win. And so he didn't take the offer, which was so interesting because I thought if you took those statistics and you also had the money to buy the players that
Mhm.
you really truly wanted, of course there is an added element there
So
because they still had a restriction.
yeah.
hmm
So in that, would you have taken the offer?
I would because the Sox won using that model the following year,
Yeah.
and I would have done the math. The math would have been this is what I've learned and I know how to do it. And now I won't have any restriction on which players I put into those spots. So I would actually become unstoppable
That's
because they
fair.
have such a large budget. So I would have done that. I would have brought Peter with me and that would have been a part of my contract. But yes, I would have taken the offer. I wouldn't have been
Interesting.
sentimental about
Well, I don't
taking
think it
the
was
team there.
necessarily sentimental. I think t 2 things at least I got from it and reading up on the story was, 1, he didn't wanna move away from his daughter
Mhm,
to the opposite coast,
mhm,
and then 2, he made a decision based on money early on in his life, and it kinda failed him.
mhm,
So I think he was kinda living with that and kind of vowed that he would never kind of take money
mhm,
over doing something he loved,
mhm.
and so he didn't take it.
It sounds sentimental to me. That's not. Oh, I would make
Well,
so
obviously not a
mhm.
great business choice there, but, sometimes
I'm
it
like,
is what it is.
yeah,
Also, did you know that Peter Brand was a made-up character because the actual Peter Brand still works in baseball, and he was worried about his career, so they didn't use his name or anything about him. They just made up a new character.
they just, like, made him a version of.
Well, I don't even know if it's a version of.
Hmm,
You
like
know what
what?
I mean?
Oh, yeah, like the
Like, they
person
made
who's
him,
in
like,
the
very nerdy in the movie, but,
mhm.
like
He could have been, like, an ex-baseball player that
yeah.
learned a different way because he was taking a course and, like, thought it
Yeah.
could apply, and yeah, no,
Cool, huh?
I mean, yeah, I did thanks for
He's
the
a real
fun fact.
person, too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Real person, we don't know his name, though.
Mm,
I'm sure we could probably look him up.
I bet he's working for the Red Sox.
He left, yes.
Yeah, he just thought, I was like, "I'm outta here.
Yeah.
I'm just giving it to these guys after I taught them." Potentially, yeah, this movie is so great. And I think that with the decision, like, let's use the daughter, like, the daughter was already sharing, like, the spaces. She already was a baseball fan. You know what I mean? She believed in her dad. Um, you know, he was less present with her when he was on the road with the other teams. Like, travel's a part of being that type of coach, so that wouldn't have played in, I don't think, for me. Like, again, like, kind of using children as an aspect.
Well, I mean, I'll argue with you because in the movie, he didn't go on the road with the team.
Until he had to, because he felt like he had to build a rapport and relationship because the leadership wasn't
Right.
there.
But usually he didn't
Yeah.
because he had a daughter.
So then he'll go back to
I'm not gonna win on them. That's fine. It's not a hill I'm gonna die on.
all right.
But yes, I agree with the data and the analytics. I also think
Mhm.
one cool thing about this movie is it does show again how hard it is to go against the norm. And you even kind of question yourself. You question everything about it.
Mhm.
And then it's really kind of that internal grit that then kind of you either have it or you don't. And you kind of move forward.
That's true. Do you think that grit can be built? Because I agree, he had to turn a yacht around in, like, a small harbor. Yeah, he had a lot of people who were 30, 40, 50 years in those spots being scouts and really felt confident in the way that they approached things and had years of experience and wins under their belts
Well, I
too,
mean,
like
him growing up in the sport, like, that's everything he knew as well.
yep,
So he was like, "We have to do things differently, and I'm not sure how, but I know we need to."
and he brought in this person, let's
Yeah.
say is 20 something, who hasn't won a championship with this,
Right.
like, so of course there's gonna be doubt because there isn't anybody in your world that's going to get it. He doesn't really have a family life outside of, like, eating
Yeah.
cereal with his daughter and, like, those cute, like, things, which I love. I did love the father-daughter dynamic being shown. I thought that was great, but he did have to turn this, like, yacht around instead of, like, if it was just him and he was like, "I'm gonna work on my own statistics and analytics," then it's turn in a canoe. Like, you could, of course, do it, but you have to turn a whole industry's perspective, but that is ultimately what a leader does, right? A leader looks at a scenario, says, "We're talking about the same BS around this table that does not work. We're looking to do something that we do not have the money to do. So it's up to me as a leader to find a different solution." So if he didn't do that, then the choices that were on the table were already failing choices.
Yeah.
So of all the times to make a decision, probably a good year to do it, when you're already feeling like you're losing. What do you have to risk, aside from furthering another year and your reputation is bad, but you're already in a bad spot because you were winning and then you lost your people and you have no money. So now what? And so you have to be innovative. I love when innovation meets analytics. It's like, "Oh, I have to do something new, and here's some things that I can pull from. There's an opportunity to win here if I can measure it." What was frustrating, I think, watching the movie is that there's an X factor of a coach that was in between his choices and the analytics, and there was this person who was like, "I'm not going to trust or do what is being shared." And so the reason why he went on the road was that he started teaching people, "Did you know that you get on base this many times? Did you know what the stats are that we're following? Let me show the coach." And so that people could be won over by, like, showing them
So
why
building
are
a team.
it was building confidence and why they were in these weird positions on the
But,
field.
like, also believing in themselves to
Mhm.
do, yeah, what they were meant to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, what was it, a catcher that was then gonna be a first baseman? And building kind of that team as he's like, why am I doing this? I don't even know how to be a first baseman.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you get on base.
Well, he's like, "Oh," and then talking to them about, like, why they were chosen instead of just being like, "We're doing this," which I probably was part of, like, a run over from their approach before. "We're doing this because we're doing this. That's it." And, like, there wasn't a conversation.
Yeah.
You just trust the scouts because that's it because it was so unique and they were switching things so at an angle that it had to be unpacked, which
Yeah.
I agree, that does build a great culture, a great team dynamic, understanding where the leadership is coming from in their thought process, I think that's great. But it took, like if that coach had just
Hmm.
been obedient, then they would have gotten more than the 20 in a row, right? Because
Yeah.
they would have been, like, listening.
Earlier on. Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, at the same time, it was interesting because he also did teach or train Peter Brand, his character, how to let players go and like that conflict kind of situation. So like that character grew as well.
Yeah.
So everyone was kind of growing in the midst of the show, which I think also too you like in things,
Mhm.
watching things grow.
I do.
Uh,
Love a mentorship moment.
yeah. So there was a lot of that throughout the film. What did you rate it?
I gave it I feel like
A 7.5.
it was a 7 point yeah, I was like it wasn't an 8, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
7.5 because it's good. I just wish more people would be open to hearing from a young person, be innovative, look at what's actually
Yeah.
working on paper, use analytics in the way that they make their just like
Mhm.
I love so much of it. And I'm still hopeful that like maybe the Oakland A's would one day, you know what I mean? That would be so cool. Like, because I just think,
Interesting.
yeah, with,
I think
hmm
Kit is rating movies based on the story and not the movie itself.
but yeah,
This is a sham.
it is. It's a good
I
movie.
rated the movie a 6.5. It was a good movie, but would I watch it again?
Oh, I would watch it again.
I don't know if I mean, like, I would watch it in the background while I did something else.
Yeah,
I don't think I would sit down and, like Brad Pitt didn't make me cry.
it's
Like,
not a cry movie. Why you gotta cry every time?
well, I mean, I also wasn't intrigued by his acting.
Well, that's what
Like,
Billy Beane was like, though.
the
Just
the
normal dude.
cool thing about the story is the story.
Yeah,
They had a good story. I think the acting could have been better.
you do.
Yeah.
I thought Jonah Hill played amazing.
Well, I mean, like, sure, that character's
So you're
but, like, it was like a side character, like, the main draw is Brad Pitt, and did Brad Pitt
deliver,
deliver?
not maybe in the same way as like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or like, other movies that you're like, I was really captivated by the character.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, like, I'm just like, I
Maybe you just don't like a broy guy.
no, that's not true. Because I was so I'll tell you before we talk about my movie in the next episode, I was gonna pick Invictus,
Mhm.
which we probably should still watch because you haven't seen it,
Okay, stay tuned. Yeah.
and, yeah, the acting in that movie,
Yeah.
yeah, we
It's
should watch that as a side
you
note because
you're not wrong that it's kind of more of a popcorn movie. That's the way that it's acted as light and like it
yeah,
is like a lighter depiction. Like the teammates when they're getting let go, they don't lose their mind. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the
mm,
things that happen it is lighter. To me it added to the believability of what those rooms are like, though.
oh,
The fact that it wasn't severe or strong.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just a good story
Mm.
with light acting because they didn't have to do much. You know how, like, you have, like, a mediocre story and then there's really good acting that then
Takes it
carries it?
over. Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
this was the opposite way, which I agree. Great story, great use of, you know,
Mhm.
data and analytics to upset the market and, like, be that kind of
Be the change.
be the change kinda thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, definitely agree. But movie-wise, 6.5. I said what I said.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if we had used, let's say, She Said with Carey Mulligan and severe acting, true story, Me Too movement, really extreme, you know, it is incredibly acted. The story is known, um, but it is acted really well.
Well,
And you leave being like that because they changed the industry, these two women. I get it. Yeah, because I would have rated higher in my mind as well. So, okay, I agree.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah, if you are watching on our podcast channel, continue on. Our next episode, which will be, Cade's take on a real story and what he chose. And if you are, looking and you're listening on podcasts, then we're on Apple and Spotify. And, do you wanna give them our social media handle as well?
Yes. Social media handle Cade and Kit.
Mhm.
Also, please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. Bye, guys.